Most noble greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Silver Wings Armory YouTube channel. Welcome to the showroom, where today I've got propped up on its stand the first full suit of armor I've produced. Let's take a look. I want to give you an overview, and we will take it apart piece by piece and look how the individual components work together, interact with each other, how the joints are mobile, and all of that fun. First of all, some basic facts. This suit was made for live-action roleplay use, meaning 1mm mild steel was quite enough for most of the pieces. Some are 1.5mm to give them a little extra strength and also to help with plasticity and forming. Live-action roleplay means we just whack each other with foam things, which is hilariously fun. And also means I don't have to use spring steel or even titanium. This makes production of such a suit much easier and faster. What does fast mean? Well, this suit overall, I haven't timed it precisely to be very honest, but its overall production time at this point is between 250 and 300 hours of work. It can be a lot more for more elaborate suits, but this is quite the simple piece. For some numbers, this whole thing weighs 27 kilograms, as you see it here, including the jazz you see underneath, the mail collar, the arming doublets, these leather thingies. I will show you all of them individually. 27 kilograms is quite spot on in the late medieval period for a piece or a suit of field armor. Which means the feeling this gives is pretty authentic, I assume. I don't, of course, know. I have never worn a real historical piece of armor in combat, which must be thrilling, to say the least. However, it has given me some great insights as to how proper armor should work, as opposed to the mass production stuff you see mostly in live-action roleplay. So this whole thing is entirely unhistorical. It's just a piece of fantasy armor. However, I wanted to capture the functionality as well as the overall vibe of late medieval armor from Europe. And capturing the functionality essentially means it needs to fit very well. So if you look at me next to it, I've made the stand to pretty much exactly my proportions, as you can hopefully see. I've got a quite narrow waist, and this is great. This is like the Gothic silhouette. I'm proud of it. I'm not doing anything to keep my weight down. It's just not happening to go up. Anyways, the entire weight rests on my natural waist, making this 27 kilogram suit of armor absolutely unexpectedly easy to move around with all day. And of course, you sweat a lot, and jumping up and down, walking down and up multiple flights of stairs is not the most fun thing in the world, but it's really quite bearable. And also the leg harness is suspended from the same point. I will show you all individually. So let's take them apart in the order in which it would be put on, which is from the feet up. For the first part, I don't even need to take anything off. I have here the sabatons. This is protection for the feet. I am, however, very not pleased with them and will remake some at some point in the future. But here, for completion's sake, are the sabatons. So, the second part from the feet up is the greaves. The greaves cover the lower legs. In this case, we have demi-greaves, so only covering the front half of the lower leg. You can see these little flaps. They are, as far as I'm aware, not found on any historical pieces. I just added them for a little wrapping around protection to the calf. You would be surprised how much these 3 centimeters of steel plate add in means of cut protection from the outside. These are honestly not quite noteworthy. They are simple design of greaves. Historical properly made greaves would usually have a saddle shape to them, meaning around here they dip down a little and then flare back out, which holds them tighter to the leg itself, but these work because they are demi-greaves. What they do have is this, in German we call it Weizenglas shape. It's shaped like a beer glass. So you see it's very narrow down here and then widening gradually to the largest point of the calf, and then just a little, but very crucially narrowing back towards the top. In this way, they, and together with the exact position of the upper strap, it makes it so that they can't slide down the calf muscle. They are essentially kept up by its shape. This lower strap here is then really just to keep it from moving around too much while running. Also, as the keen-eyed have maybe already spotted, there is a pin on here, locking it to a hole, which is in the lowest part of the upper leg protection, which I will show you in a minute. So this locks and then cannot slide around up or down. And as long as the straps are closed, it's essentially functioning as one entire piece, the entire leg. So next, let's take a look at the upper leg. Next up, we have the cuisses. This is the left one. It covers the upper leg, the knee, and part of the lower leg. And this is the hole I was just speaking of, which connects it to the greave. There's a few things of note here. Let's start with the obvious. The knee joint needs quite a lot of movement. It can, as you can see, move from overextended to entirely folded. This is actually more range of motion than my leg has, because my leg has more mass than fits in here. So when I bend my leg, it's more like that. So I can easily and comfortably kneel on the ground and things like that. This wing here on the pollane, the kneecap, as you can see very well, it protects the inside of the knee very effectively, because the inside of the knee has biologically very little protection and is very vulnerable to cuts. A hit here could disable you in a fight very easily because your leg would just collapse essentially. So of course you don't want any cut coming around to damage the inside of your knee. This wing here, and it's quite large on these pieces, covers that gap effectively. And if the leg is completely angled, bent, there's absolutely no way to get to the inside of the knee. This part of the cuisse wrapping around, essentially towards the rear of the upper leg, is found in a lot of historical examples. I attached them with leather. They are more usually attached with metal hinges. To be quite honest, I was just a little lazy and did not want to file hinges at the time I was making them. I probably wouldn't repeat that because my expectations I hold myself up to have grown quite considerably. It is worn with these holes in the leather tab on the top. With them I can wear a landaunier, which has leather strings, and I can tie it to that, fixing it to the jointing position, which is quite a lot more up than you would expect of the hip. So a movement of my leg, as you can see, turns it around the point they are suspended. Knee flexibility, part 2. I said it can overextend. This is very crucial, and a lot of factory-made armor cannot do that. If it cannot do that, walking in it would feel incredibly stiff and robot-like, because in the normal walking cycle, this is a position your leg holds shortly. It can also, I can show you this from the front, move side to side, which is surprising to some people, I found out. It also needs to be able to do that because the leg, while the knee is a simple joint, only moving in one direction, it does change its angle between the upper and lower leg when closing. So you can try this with your own knee. If you're sitting down in front of your computer or smartphone, just bend your knee and watch how the relation between your upper and lower leg changes. The armor needs to reflect that as well to feel natural. There is a decorative lower edge of leather with some golden rivets, which are a common theme on this armor. And this too is something you see in many historical armors. The decoration is a concept that runs through the entire armor. There are entire armor suits today named after the way they are decorated, like the harness with the eagles, because it has little engraved eagles as decoration all over. So some more points of note. This is made of multiple parts. It's just for fanciness. These don't move. These are riveted together. So is the knee, but it moves. How does it work? There are sliding rivets between the plates, which allow, first of all, for a much bigger range of movement. They are essentially what enables this entire thing to collapse down and open more than the natural knee. And these also allow the side-to-side movement, as you can see, because the rivet can slide in its slot. And this is, of course, when you make it newly quite stiff in the beginning, but loosens up very nicely and then produces a very distinct sound when walking. So this is the cuisse. Let's move to the next part. Next up, we have the cuirass. It is protection for essentially all of the torso and some of the upper legs, including the back, of course. It is not, as it looks like, hanging here, suspended from the shoulders. I will show you in a minute. But by the natural waist, which is why this is quite thinly waisted. I am not quite pleased with the way the folds turned out. The folds are these lames of metal here. As you can see, they gap quite a bit. This is due to an error I made. Well, there will be another version of them doing this a lot better. I can put it on by myself quite easily, because all I need to do to close it is pinch this little belt around my waist. See, that's my first garment, I think. So, let me come down a little to show you that there is no weight on my shoulders. I can move them freely. I can put my hand in here. My shoulders do not hold any of the weight, which makes this exceedingly comfortable and also a lot more mobile than you might think, as this is a stiff breastplate, not as you see on some Italian armors, a upper plastron and lower placard, which are only kept together by a strap. No, this is just one solid piece, but because it goes into my waist that much, I'm still enormously flexible, as you can see. I am retaining essentially my full range of motion. Also, the cutout for the arm is made in a way that I can touch my elbows in front of my chest, which is very much not the case with any mass-produced armor, because they are usually very large, much too wide, so you can only walk around like a figure of a certain plastic brick company, which I will not name for fear of being sued. can take this off. It's dropping my microphone. Very sorry for that. As you can see, I can take it off easily. Let's go to the next piece, which would be this leather thing. It is entirely fantasy. I added them, well, at the time I was making this, I was re-watching Game of Thrones for the don't ask how many time. And I saw, I think it was Jorah Mormont walking around in the desert with the, what were they called again? You know, the Dothraki. And he was wearing a quite simple outfit, very much elevated by a sort of 4-paneled battle skirt, and I kind of wanted to imitate that optic. So I wanted to have something which I could wear with just the daily clothes, which would make it still look a little armored and knightly. So I came up with this design. Also another inspiration, I think it is a For Honor character. I haven't played the game much, but I saw artwork online, which also has something like this. I do not know which material it is made of on the character. From that I borrowed the bottom decoration. It is made of quite sturdy leather, reinforced at the back with a lot of washers, which I had laying around from another project. They were left over, cost me nothing, and essentially make this into a improvised brigandine, let's call it that. From the outside, you see the rivet heads, and if there's fantasy armor called studded leather, this is what I would expect it to look like. So not just rivets put through, these don't really do anything besides hold larger pieces of metal, adding cut protection. I've made the rule to present the pieces in the fashion they are put on. This is of course not the case when looking at the arming doublet, which would be one of the first pieces you put on, because trying to put this on after you've put your cuirass on would be a little cumbersome, to say the least. It is not as thickly padded as many people assume. And this is really on the thick side. There are arming doublets in the late medieval period, which are made from only 2 to 6 layers of linen fabric. Means no padding at all, because there is no padding necessary. You have rigid, stiff plates on top of them, which not only handle cuts very well, but also are stiff and rigid plates, so also blunt force has no way of impacting your body beneath it. So what the arming doublet mostly does is 2 things. It gives you points from which to hang your armor, like you can see on the shoulders, and if I open up the strap on the upper arm. In some types also the legs are suspended from the doublet itself. In this case, it's a landanier worn underneath. The second function is essentially to prevent chafing. There are moving metal plates with edges, and pinching is inevitable in some places. So a piece of sturdy fabric between your skin and the metal plates makes it a lot more comfortable. But as I said, no padding needed. It would be fatal to have padding, especially in the waist area, being too thick, because it would move the piece of armor around here, the cuirass, and the cuirass waist away from your body, greatly hindering mobility. The same goes for the arms and legs, of course. The arms on this piece are separately worn. There's essentially a little vest, which you can see right now. It's like a bolero, just like covering the upper chest. Doesn't matter, it's hidden beneath here, where the arms are attached to. So the vest essentially can be worn on its own, which is another concession to this being live action role play ready. So I can just wear this vest with a mail collar over some pretty simple clothes, instantly making it quite a nice look. Speaking of the mail collar, I did not make the mail myself. I do not have the patience to do that. It is bought, and it is sewn on to the neck of the arming doublet. So I do not have to put on a separate piece, but can just wear this all in one go. Sorry for bumping the mic there. So really, next up we have the arms. And because I'm feeling lazy today, I have not taken the arm off here. I can show you them while attached to the arming doublet sleeves. They are attached via these two leather strings. They could be woven fabric too. They are called points usually. Sometimes, or especially when made of fabric, they have metal tips like you can see on those. I've opted for leather. They break frequently and I can make these for essentially no cost from cutoffs, and they are very, very sturdy. As opposed to the leg, there is no solid connection between the three pieces of the arm. Instead, they are individually fastened around the arm. Note, of course, that they are not attached to the arm in a way of holding the weight. The weight is entirely, of course, suspended by the points up here. The movement in this case is facilitated with, whoa, hi there, with the leathers, which connect the pieces together. And as you can see, there is another point holding the elbow to the leathers of the upper and lower cannon. These both enclose fully, the upper and the lower one. You see a wild mixture of how this is set up in historical armor. There are options or variants which have only the outside plates. Sometimes there is the outside on the upper arm, but a full lower arm. And I think I know of one enclosed upper arm with just a lower arm vambrace on the outside. The elbows, of course, are also very much variable in shape and size. These are quite simply fluted. There are extravagant ones, there are huge pointy ones, there are much smaller ones. So I feel like as an armor smith, I have quite some artistic freedom with the design of those. They, of course, have the same function as the wings on the knees, which is covering the inside of the joint at least a little. There are some versions wrapping all the way around. But I feel like this is a little cumbersome because it contacts the cuirass a lot, and that makes it a little, I don't know, a little unnatural to wear, but of course would be more protection. Next we have the shoulder defenses. The English armor vocabulary differentiates between pauldrons and spaulders. The German vocabulary does not really do that, in which they are just Schultern or Achseln. This exact construction is rather unhistorical. It's somewhere weirdly in between pauldrons and spaulders. I should explain that a little. Spaulders usually name thin pieces of shoulder defenses, essentially only covering the outside of the upper arm and shoulder. Whereas pauldrons are usually much larger, covering all the way around the chest and the back. So they have wings, which in German are called Flügel, in the front, in the back, or just one of those. There's also this Bessague, I think in English. I've designed this to be the shape of a shield, essentially, with a little lion rivet head in the middle, just for fantasy style. These are most commonly round, florally shaped. In some English armors, they are more, well, shaped like, I don't know, a piece of cloth draped over the shoulder. Hard to describe. This design, again, is entirely fantastical. It is articulated on leathers, which make these rather large shoulders still very much flexible and mobile, because it's live action roleplay. We all fight on foot, meaning we need to be able to get our arms above our heads and all of that fun. Also, these blade catchers, or whatever you want to call them, they are really intended for cavalry use, and then usually are quite a bit larger to stop lances from sliding into the neck. They are just added for style, especially like the double one. It's crazy, does not need to be that way, it's entirely non-functional, but looks good as heck, so I added them. So, not much left. Let's look at the gauntlets and the helmet. And here we have the helmet. It is a closed helmet type, meaning it wraps around the chin. It is not perfectly shaped. This is the first helmet I have ever made for this project, so there's a lot of ways to improve upon it. This is already the second visor. I've had a different one before. It was nice, but I didn't quite love it, so I made this. Thinking ahead, I made it detachable, so if I had a pair of pliers, I could pull these pins and take it off, maybe, and attach another visor. It does have some mechanics to it. There are two buttons locking the two pieces. Also a slightly designed brass handle here, making operation of the visor much easier when wearing gauntlets. When depressing this button, you can lift the visor, have a look inside. It's very dirty and of course smells horribly of sweat, but that's just the way things are. As you can maybe see when looking inside, the padded piece inside is also not made by me. I've just sewn it into a strip of leather, riveted on the inside. I had it laying around, so I used it. It fit quite well. And I did make up a piece of padding for the chin area here. Speaking of this chin area, pressing this button lets it lift up too. So you can put the helmet on, because there is absolutely no way your head will fit through here. As you can see, there's no strap in here holding it around the chin like a bicycle helmet. This works much rather like a motorcycle helmet, closing quite firmly around the chin with this rather thick but soft padding, making it absolutely impossible to come off and really comfortable to wear. Visibility out here is, of course, limited, but not as bad as you may be expecting. The really hard thing is breathing, because this essentially seals to my chin, making this the only openings where air can be exchanged. So I cannot have this visor down and be in a full-on fight for a very long time. I need to lift up the visor and catch a breath every now and then. But I'm quite young and fit, so that doesn't bother me as much. And there's, of course, always a trade-off to be made between protection and comfort and all of those nasty, necessary things. Yes, so that's the helmet. Not 100% proud of it, but it works very much well enough. The pattern for this helmet is an old Armor Archive one, so hop over to that old dinosaur of a website, grab the pattern, make one for yourself. It was a fun project, although I was swearing and cursing a lot of it. Yeah, it works. Last but very much not least, the gauntlets. This is a piece of armor that is very fascinating to me. The first time I put on proper, well-made Gothic gauntlets by a very renowned armorsmith, I was absolutely mind-blown as to just how flexible they felt. It only felt like wearing a leather glove, and you did not even feel the metal attached to it. It was absolutely fascinating, and gauntlets have been captivating to me since. This is a simple construction of Southern German, late medieval inspired design. There are not many intricacies to it. It features the same method of articulation as the knees, so it's also very, very flexible, which is of course necessary when fighting, especially on foot. When you're on a horse and only have to hold a lance and the horse's reins, you can get away with a lot less mobility. But this way, even rather complex sword fighting techniques are easily possible. Let's put it on. So yeah, you can see I retain almost my full range of movement. They do not feel as satisfying as that piece, my first love. But I'm really quite pleased with them. There are, of course, some gaps here and there which could be made a little tidier, which I would make a little tidier today, but I'm honestly quite proud of them for this being my first pair of gauntlets. A secondary edition were these male fingers. This time I did take the patience to make up some small patches of mail, making this a bifurcated mitten. So two fingers are conjoined, which is like a compromise of protection between a fully fingered and a mitten gauntlet. This knuckle plate here is quite extended to cover the the better part of my hands when holding a weapon. I just pushed over the cuirass. So what this protruding edge does very well is catch cuts coming in from this angle to not hit my fingers but be stopped by the plate before being able to damage my fingers. Because let's face it, even with a foam weapon, if your opponent does not stop the blow or maybe just misses what he intended to hit, which can happen, of course, a hit to the fingers while grabbing the weapon, it does hurt, of course, and why not have some protection, especially when wearing armor. Well, I hope this has been entertaining to at least some of you. If you made it until this part of the video, it probably was interesting to you. I now have to put this back together, which takes a lot longer than putting it on myself. Anyways, if you've enjoyed it, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all of that YouTube jazz, you know it. And let's see where the next video takes us. I have something in mind to show you, but we will see.